Alright guys, so let's start with base 1. The first thing you need to know is calories. Calories are the amount of energy that your body needs to operate, and is also the amount of energy the food gives you. So each product or each food has a certain amount of energy or a certain amount of calories. Now, calories are broken down into macros and micros, which we'll get into in a few. But first, let's start with the basics of energy output and energy requirement. It's important to understand how many calories your body needs daily, or just an average or a base, so that you understand whether or not you're underfeeding yourself or under eating. Whether or not you're giving more energy to your body than it needs, and which would be or could be the reason why you're retaining more weight or retaining more fat or water. And then under eating, which may be the case if you're losing weight too fast, if you can't gain weight. Every body type is different, but it's important to understand a base so that you have something to work with. You can calculate your caloric energy needs by using the calculator I'm going to use down below. So we'll start with the basic, which is RMR, your resting metabolic rate. Your resting metabolic rate is the highest energy output that you'll have throughout the day, unless you're like a super endurance athlete. Your RMR will always be the highest. For women, it goes around 1,400 to 1,600 calories daily, and for men, it goes around 1,600 for 1,800 calories daily in average. Added to that, then we have or our non-exercise movement or our sports or exercise movement. So all of this composition, the amount of energy and calories we burn daily, is added, and it forms your total caloric output, which is what the calorie down below will give you. You can also take into account your goals, whether your goal is to lose weight or gain weight. You would add 500 or subtract 500 calories to that total amount daily if your goal is to lose weight or gain weight. And that would put you at about 1 pound loss per week, which is the safest way to lose weight. Anything above that may compromise your immunity, your health, and your wellness. And it's different for everyone. So definitely, if you're going to give it a try and you want to stay consistent, you should consider hiring a coach in that regard, so that you have a guide, and then you can go and understand how it works for you personally. Work with someone that understands like whether or not those calories are working for you, if you need to increase or decrease. But those are the basics of calories. Okay, now we head into the second base of nutrition, which is macronutrients. Macronutrients come in 3 different groups. It starts with protein, then goes to carbohydrates, and then it goes to fat. Each certain macronutrient serves a specific purpose, and it's needed for your body to like do a specific task or a different thing. So it's not enough to understand your calorie range if you're not feeding your body the proper amount or percentages of macronutrients it needs. So protein is formed of amino acids, and it's used primarily to build and repair muscle. Carbohydrates are your body's preferred source of energy, and thus are the highest amount of calories that you'll intake throughout the day. And then you have your fat range, which is at a higher calorie per gram, but it's super important because it serves to a lot of composition in your body, and to store really important vitamins A, D, E, and K. So these are the 3 macronutrient groups. Protein and carbohydrates are both 4 calories per 1 gram, and then fat is 9 calories per 1 gram. And you can weigh this using a food scale. You can weigh this using a food scale, and like taking your item or food, putting it into the food scale, and then using an app like Nutritionix or MyFitnessPal to input that amount of grams of the food and understand the macronutrient value of the food and the caloric value of that specific food. Protein, you usually want to stay around 20 to 35% of your total caloric output. So the way you do this is if you have 2,000 calories a day, say you personally went to the calculator and it said that you require 2,000 calories per day to stay at your current weight, then you would multiply the 2,000 by 0.2 or 0.35 or anything within that range to calculate the amount of calories that you need solely for protein. And then you divide that by 4 because there are 4 calories per 1 gram, and you should get the amount of grams that you need daily for that for protein. And you do the same with carbohydrates, and you do the same with fat. So carbohydrates require 45 to 65% of your total daily caloric intake. And this ranges, and this is really high, it ranges to whether or not you're a highly active individual or a highly sedentary individual. So if you're more sedentary, you want to stay around the lower end of the percentage. And if you're highly sedentary, highly active, you want to stay at the highest range. That is if you follow a typical Western diet. Now, for diets like vegan and plant-based, these ranges vary. And that is something completely different that we are going to talk about in another video. So stay tuned for more. And then we have our fats. Our fats go anywhere from 10 to 35%, and you calculate it the same way, except that when after multiplying, say 2,000 by 0.2 or 0.1, you divide by 9 because there are 9 calories per 1 gram of fat. So now that we have our calories, our macros, and our food percentages covered, it's important to understand why it is important to actually choose good and healthy foods. Like, why do we need these veggies? Why do we need like or I'm not used to that? Well, guess what? Your body needs it. Your body needs vitamins and nutrients. There are a huge amount of vitamins and nutrients that you literally cannot get anywhere else without getting it from your diet. I mean, you can by buying supplements, but those are highly sketchy because the FDA only regulates that those supplements don't have any contaminant. It doesn't really regulate whether they work or not, and there are very, very rarely or barely any studies made to confirm or prove that a specific product actually is giving you that amount of vitamin that it's suggesting it gives you. So the best way to get your nutrients and vitamins comes from healthy, whole foods. So what are the vitamins and what are the nutrients? There's a large group. Let's get into the B vitamins. We have all of the V vitamins that go from thiamine, so B1, B2, B3, B4, B6, biotin. Then we have B7, I believe, and then we have B12. B12 is always talked about because for vegans and plant-based people who don't really eat meat or animal products, it's hard to get since B12 is usually found on animal products. Then we have vitamin C as well. And we have vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. So the difference between non-fat-soluble vitamins, which are all of the vitamins, and then C vitamins, is that it doesn't really matter if you give your body more than it requires, because your body will sweat it out or excrete it through urine or like any type of like water fluid that you have, it will go away. If you give your body more vitamins, more of the fat-soluble vitamins than it needs, it may be a problem because it doesn't really have a way of excreting it and it will remain in your system. So you have to be careful, but I can assure you that you will not go beyond the need, because in America, we are literally underneath every category. And you can go ahead online and type in, or I can list down below, the daily requirements for each vitamin and how you can ensure you're getting that through your diet. So I want to show you guys how I actually, I used to do this. Now I kind of like, I just make sure I eat as healthy as possible. And by that I mean listen, I want to have good foods in my house. I want to make sure I'm cooking healthy, I'm cooking good. I want to feel satiated. I want to, I don't I tend not to buy unrefined products, and unless it's like dark chocolate covered almonds, which I love, and it's the reason I'm like breaking out. But I'm finding a way to make my own. So yeah, I'll list, or I'll show you a screen of how I used to prepare my own personal like foods and meals when I used to count macros, and how I made sure that I was having enough of the macronutrients at each meal. Okay, number 5, I wanted to get into more detail about carbohydrates and just really demystify like the whole stigma that's been surrounding carbohydrates and why. We've seen a rise in so many diseases, and a lot of people are blaming carbohydrates. And like I mentioned before, it's not carbs' fault. It's the fact that sugar is a carbohydrate, and everything is now labeled as a carbohydrate because everything literally contains sugars. So I can assure you that you will not feel the same way if your body needs 300 grams of carbohydrates daily, and if you intake those from mostly sugars versus whole foods and literally legumes, like healthy grains and stuff like that, you will not feel the same because it's processed differently. Now, what happens with carbohydrates? Why do carbohydrates make you actually gain weight? Carbohydrates are stored in the liver as glycogen. That's your energy. That is your body's preferred source of energy. Once those storages are depleted, it goes into burning fat. But it's much more complex than that. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm gonna stop eating carbs, so now my body is going to start burning fat. No, it does not work like that. Your body is not dumb. If you undereat or give your body less than what it needs, your body will actually start to store fat because it's in like threat mode, and it's so like it feels threatened, and now it's like it's holding on to this fat because our ancestors used to get stressed when they were facing like an actual life or death crisis. So our body associates that to that moment when like they couldn't hunt their meat or they couldn't get their food, so now they're under stress, and now their body needs that energy to like stay, and this is what it transfers over to now. We store that energy when our body is under stress. This is why it's important not to eliminate carbs, but rather choose the right carbs and understand the amount of carbohydrate grams that work for you personally. So go ahead, use the calorie calculator, use the macronutrient calculator, and start at that range, or start at a certain range. It is recommended that the average person should eat around 135 grams of just pure carbohydrates. 135 grams. Let me see how many calories that is. That's like the average American person. That's like 540 calories. Of course, we're eating much more than that because we're consuming sugars. But just start at a range. And I can't really tell you like what ranges you should be at because everyone's different, and so this is why I work with people differently, and I want to like see how they feel. But carbohydrates are really important to start to understand, because once your storages, your liver's glycogen storages are filled, they can store up to 2,000 calories in glycogen. Once that is like filled and it cannot take any more glycogen, that energy will be stored in your muscles. Once your muscles cannot take any more glycogen, the energy will be stored as fat, and this is when you start to gain weight. If you don't have a control over your carbohydrate intake, if you don't understand how your body works, then you cannot control the amount of fat you're gaining, because once that reaction starts to happen, your body starts storing more and more and more, and like it never ends. So that is the carbohydrate topic that I really wanted to touch upon, and just give you an overview of why like they claim the carbs are so bad when they're not bad. It's just we're making the wrong decisions. To get some water really quickly. But now, so what happens when you're doing the right thing? When you're within your macro ranges, when you're not overeating, but you still feel like bloated, or you still feel sluggish, or once again, you try to arrange your carbohydrate intake and you work with that, it is also important to understand that per gram of carbohydrate, your body stores 3 grams of water. So your body retains a lot of water when you give it a certain amount of carbohydrates. That is also another component that may add to your lack of progress in the scale, or maybe body composition. You can fix this by lowering your carb intake and further seeing how your body feels. So it's a process of really trying to get to the right amount that pertains to you and see how that applies. If you're the type to do the same activity daily, if you're highly sedentary, if you have an 8 to 5 job, this may be simpler for you, because once you find that range, then you can stay within and you kind of have like a good control. However, if you're the type of person who has something different every day, it may vary, and I recommend just like tuning into your body, seeing how it feels, eating 30 to 40 grams per meal of carbohydrates at least, to see how your body reacts to that. If you feel like you're getting too hungry too quickly, then you might need to boost that up or add in more protein and more fat. You need to create those mixtures so that you begin to understand and you begin to tune into your body. We also don't want to run into feeling extreme hunger all the time. That's not the goal. The goal is to really just come in tune with your body, and once your body starts to feel balanced, it will find its preferred weight and its preferred like state, and then you get into changing your body composition. So it's like step by step you get to learn how your body works with nutrition, and then you work on the body composition and fixing your body composition, because once your body finds that balance, now you can work with it to change things around. This is the 7th and final topic I'm going to be touching up on, and this one is specifically for women. I don't want to get too into detail at every topic, but I think it's really important to mention this one, since I'm a woman and this is something that I've learned to work with and that really highly impacts my personal goals in terms of like physique or like activity or like sports. It's really important to understand your period cycle. Your period cycle tells you more than you think it does. So we have 2 phases. From the day we get our period to like 2 weeks later, if you have a regular period, your body is more similar to a man's body. So your hormones are leveled, your body's preferred source of energy intake or energy like burning goes into carbohydrate mode, like highly carbohydrate mode. You feel that this is a time of your like cycle when you feel your best, you feel like you're literally thriving, you feel amazing. But then we get the luteal phase, which is when literally everything just goes to peep. And if you're the type to have PMS, if you're the type to have like get cranky and mood swings and all of this is something you need to take care of. This is something that you can handle by listening and tuning into your body and not letting those cravings control your decisions. How do you do that? How do you like, oh my god, but it's the cravings. I literally have not had any cravings. It's not cravings. Your body is literally getting ready to ovulate, to have a baby. All these changes are happening inside of you, and this is why your body requires more energy. Now, the type of energy we give it is not sugars. We don't need to give it sugars. We just need to eat better. This is a time of the month when we really need to be in tune with our nutrition. So now, what are sugars going to do for you? Sugars literally have no nutrients or vitamins. Your body requires more nutrients and vitamins when it's under that process of the luteal phase, because it's literally getting ready to carry a baby and then get rid of the egg if there's no baby. So there's a lot going on. In this phase, there's a lot of like deficiency in certain vitamins and nutrients, especially magnesium, zinc, and iron. So you need to be eating foods that are highly rich in that. You also need to start focusing on a type of nutrition that doesn't make you feel bloated, that makes you feel better. So maybe, okay, so how do I love sweet potatoes, I love squash. Make some sweet potato squash soup. If you need you need the energy, don't restrict yourself. Don't feel bad for overeating, but rather give your body what it needs. It needs more nutrients and vitamins because it's doing more. It's literally, like I said, transitioning into a state of baby mode. And so there's a lot that comes into women's cycle and the women's nutrition in terms of that. But don't label it as just like, oh, like cravings and like, no, your body is telling you that it needs more, but it's not sugar. Your body just needs more of certain types of nutrients and vitamins, and your body needs more attention. So I'll be making a video more on this, but keep that in mind. I'm gonna link a lot of like some websites below that I've used that have helped me with dealing with like my period nutrition, PMS, and all this stuff. And hopefully that helps, because I did want to mention it because it's a really big topic that no one talks about. And I'm so on top of my period cycle now in terms of training, in terms of diet, in terms of like everything. I'm just like, okay, like I know I'm gonna get my cycle. I know I also have like this 3-day thing in the middle where it's just like I don't want to do anything. I just literally hate everything, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's definitely a lot more to touch upon every subject that I've described, but I just wanted to give you the basics because I have been getting a lot of questions on Instagram and Facebook, and I hope you guys liked it. If you guys did indeed like it, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, I appreciate the positive feedback or any type of feedback. I literally shot this video 4 times. I wasn't pleased with it. I'm sure this won't be perfect, but we're getting somewhere, and I'm sure I gave you some information that you may have not known or something that may help you along your journey. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to my Instagram DMs, my Facebook profile, or whatever you may have me on. And yeah, have a blessed day. Thank you for watching.